poor brother. I can sense your fear. We have spent every day of our lives together. You are an open book to me. It will be trivial to defeat you thanks to my ancient technique.
Corridor Digital is a production studio based in Los Angeles, California that has been producing highly skilled live-action and VFX pop culture-based content in the form of short-form videos on YouTube since 2010. I know this because I'm reading the Wikipedia page. Now, they recently produced the clip that you saw a moment ago, and regardless of whether or not you've seen that before, Corridor Digital is a name that probably feels familiar. From VFX Star Wars parodies to half a dozen anime-themed gag videos, sitting at nearly 2 billion views, you've more than likely seen their work at some point in the last 13 years. Their most recent video, titled Anime Rock Paper Scissors, despite the heavily smeared coat of paint, is really no more quote-unquote anime than any of their other anime-titled videos to date. But Corridor Digital insists that it is exactly that, with the video uploaded to their side channel, Corridor Crew, titled Did We Just Change Animation Forever? The video explains the creative process behind the eyesore from earlier, to which the primary power of production is a combination of AI tech and copious amounts of the deflicker filter in DaVinci Resolve. Like, I'm talking a lot, but the video has a pretty grand argument, opening with a very broad statement of the art world.
Like, let's talk about traditional 2D animation, cartoons. The most creatively liberated medium is also the least democratized. It takes incredibly skilled people drawing every single frame of your movie to make it happen. But I think we came up with a new way to animate, a way to turn reality into a cartoon. And it's one more step towards true creative freedom, where we can easily create anything we want.
Okay, so we just heard a big boy word, so real quick, democratized, or its verb version, to democratize, means to make something accessible to everyone. Now that we're clear, let's ask the question, what the f*** is this guy even saying? Animation in many circles is considered to be the creative peak of artistic freedom. 2D animation and art have to be the most accessible forms of creativity on the planet. You can honestly animate whatever you want, right now, in 2D with a stack of sticky notes and a pen. It'll cost you like $10. Don't have that? A stick in the mud will honestly suffice. Cavemen had $0 and look what they made! Realistically, the democratization thing is a comment on how animation using mocap for worlds beyond imaginations is extremely expensive, which is why they show Avatar at the beginning of the segment. But VFX and animation are two very different things, and I honestly don't understand how a VFX studio doesn't know that! If they honestly mean to tell me that animation is the least accessible form of art, how was it that the early internet was known for an abundance of amateur animation? Like, why on God's green earth does Mike and Melissa exist? You go watch that, and then tell me that animation isn't too democratized already. From start to finish, like any and every AI proponent before it, it is pretentiously blinded by rose-tinted glasses. Tinted so hard that they never question the fact that they repeatedly show me the frame where Nico looks like he got curb-stomped, as if that's their pride and joy. If the video title didn't make it glaringly obvious, check out this clip from the same video.
One thing I want to talk about is the democratization of this process. This is a situation here where we're looking at a piece of software that's free, that anyone has access to. A process here that we're sharing openly with everyone because everyone's openly shared knowledge with us, with everyone. Since we've learned and are utilizing an open source program with a lot of contributions from people, I want to give back and I want to contribute our knowledge and put it out there so that you can go and make animations and people can experiment and improve upon the process, helping all of us get better. So in this video, I'm trying to make a point of really going through the process in a way that's interesting, but I'm not necessarily getting into a click-by-click tutorial. For those of you who want that, we actually have that on our website, corridordigital.com. I have a link in the description below.
If you want a little tip here, come over here. So subscriptions to our website cost $3.99 a month.
Oh yeah, bud, real democratized. Guys, Blender is free. All the tutorials on YouTube for it are free. You know what's not? Access to Corridor Digital's website. I understand that there's a free trial, so I can technically watch the tutorial free of cost, but to get the free trial, I need to input a credit card, so say that I'm like a 13-year-old with no bank account and I'm trying to watch the video in a public library because I want to learn about, I don't know, animation and AI, I'm probably not going to be able to pull that part off. If your tutorial towards democratization is behind a paywall, it's probably safe to assume that you don't know what that word means. I know I'm ripping on them pretty hard for this, but don't feel too bad for these guys, because they don't know what anime is either. Like, I'm gonna be quick here, I am at no point saying that the work of this VFX studio isn't creative, that the video can't be defined as art. Fucking Jeff. And ignoring the fact that it managed to look worse than the Karl Marx anime, a feat that I did not think was possible, they had a vision and nearly every step of the way took human creativity, stopping just short of the filter that overlays the entire video. The camera work, the editing, stellar. It's more or less what you'd expect out of a team with this much experience in film and VFX, but Lord almighty help me, it is not a fucking anime. For one, throughout the video, the Corridor Digital team routinely shows that they have no fucking idea how the animation process even works. They also don't really know what the animation medium is even capable of.
Basically, in anime, there's no 3D moves. It's all either painted backgrounds or cell animated characters.
2007, everyone! Also, cells?
Cells.
Like, what fucking year is it? 1995? But more on topic, they don't really understand what about anime makes it such, other than outlandish movements and personalities. Now, anime is an animation style with unique appeal that allows it to exist so prominently in the world sphere. Much like the motivation for the users of AI, a large part of what creates the visual style known as anime comes from cost-saving, corner-cutting skills honed by decades of the medium's existence. This is what's known as limited animation. Now, this is likely something you've heard of at least at one point or another if you're remotely interested in the medium of animation in general. This is what creates all the idiosyncrasies that anime is known for: bizarre lip flaps, static characters, lingering images. All forms of entertainment suffer from the problem of budgetary restraints, and each team, or even larger culture, has different methods of circumventing these issues. The preferred method of modern, Western 2D animation sees heavy lean into puppeteered assets. For example, the internet's favorite show, Bluey, is built upon this method. The Japanese method, on the other hand, instead revolves around trying to find a balance and timing that allows you to save money and time by creating as few drawings as possible while trying to adequately sell a movement. Something like that can entail animating what is only in immediate attention of the viewer, whether that be a single character in a crowd or even a single body part. And herein lies the problem of how Corridor Digital's AI method fails to replicate its inspiration. There's this really interesting video on the exact same topic by former Disney animator and director Aaron Blaise, mind you, where he leaves the Apple taskbar at the bottom of the video the whole time. It's actually a very good video, you should go watch it. There's a natural impulse of artists and animators to be repulsed or even angered by AI art, and by extension Corridor Digital's video, but throughout Blaise's video he tries to take a more calm approach where he focuses on as much the pros of this AI as well as the cons. But there's a specific point that he gets at what Corridor Digital's video emulates and its shortcomings in doing so.
Now they're eliminating frames from 24 frames to 12 frames, which gives it a little bit more of an animation look, but there is still, in my mind, there's still a rotoscoped feel to it.
The throne.
See, one of the things that 2D does, or actually one of the things that live action does, is you get all these little micro movements that even putting it on 2s, it's hard to get rid of. And it's those little micro movements that give it a live action feel.
Have you gone insane, brother?
See how those little micro movements with the hand? That's, if it was hand drawn, like what we would have done at Disney, it would have been more locked into place. There might be a little drift, but that's where you get the difference between something looking rotoscoped and looking hand drawn.
This is the point we should be focusing on. The earlier mentioned limited animation style of anime features lingering frames and static body parts. Human beings with their micro movements simply can't replicate that. Not even the weirdos that paint themselves silver and pretend to be statues in Times Square can really do that because they have to do basic shit like fucking breathe. There are the tiniest autonomic movements that are completely unavoidable, assuming that you're not a corpse. If your AI is referencing a human, it'll never really be animation. And not because of obvious shit, like the definition of animation, or simply because of micro movements, but rather because animated human beings aren't treated like normal, real-life human beings. Anime is fun because of its beyond human nature. The way that characters contort and move. Stuff like this are the pillars of animation, like squash and stretch. And that's not possible for real people. You're not doing this unless your next destination is the hospital. And this isn't just a 2D animation thing either. Like, 3D goes way harder in the paint with this. Quickly back to the AI thing, as it's the focal point of this video. AI is not designed to be a replacement for artists. It's a tool with intended uses, not a cure-all. Vacuum cleaners certainly save me a lot of time cleaning my house over sweeping, but I don't think they're gonna magically solve the backup of dishes in my sink now, are they?
Go get him!
Now, in the early discussed video by Aaron Blaze, he gets on this point about how AI art has a rotoscoped feel. Rotoscoping, for anyone that doesn't know, is the process of animation by which you draw on top of live-action footage which acts as a reference. And so AI can be really useful in speeding up the rotoscoping process by helping you know where to put shading on a face within a moving shot while simultaneously maintaining the art style. This can be great when your character matches the appearance of your actor, but this is going to be a total waste of time if you're going to be animating Jiminy Cricket. Even in the same video, Blaze discusses how 3D animation in its early days was seen as a threat to 2D animation, which at this point isn't entirely seen as unfounded, considering how it tends to dominate the animation genre on the silver screen. But it was seen that way because of a perception that it was easier to do than 2D animation. Although, in my experience working with softwares like Blender, 3D is actually pretty fucking difficult. 3D, even with the interpolation built directly into the software to eliminate the time that you'd normally be spending making in-between frames, in order to make an animation you still have to sculpt your models, sculpt your environment, make textures for all of these, and then pose keyframes on top of all of this in order to make the animation work in the first place, essentially just making this assisted claymation. And if you're not aware, claymation is exceedingly difficult and tedious. But did 3D really kill 2D in the long run? No, of course not. 2D is still going plenty strong. And in fact, 3D has been shifting to find ways to emulate 2D animation in art, because that's just how strong and timeless 2D really is. Trigun, Guilty Gear, Spider-Verse, Puss in Boots. Do you need more examples? I have several. Now, in my time with game modding, I have become intimately familiar with how ArcSys goes about replicating the limited animation style of 2D anime in a 3D space, and if 3D wasn't already difficult, it's about to get worse. For starters, in order to get your lighting to look like this, you gotta make models that look like this, and bone rigs that look like this! This is a hellscape to navigate, okay? And when it comes to animation in 3D, interpolation is the primary tool. But to make this style, you have to break it, and I mean that genuinely. Softwares like Blender don't just have an interpolation off button. You need to install, or if that doesn't already exist, create a plugin to your software to physically tell it not to do something that it's directly designed for. This makes the animation process several times harder than it needs to be. So if that's the case, why go through all of this? Well, that's because blending styles like this looks awesome, and that's not even like my opinion point. That's like actually an assessment of the marketplace. Arc System Works' 3D anime games dominate the fighting game market, assuming that your name isn't Street Fighter or Tekken. Spider-Verse, which intentionally breaks its own systems in order to animate at variable intervals, all interpolated, is the most highly rated film in the juggernaut that is the Spider-Man IP. Puss in Boots: Last Wish saw a box office profit of $480 million internationally in only 3 months. So then, what exactly does this tell us? That the viewer prefers to see something made painstakingly with time and effort to push the letter of what animation art is capable of, rather than something produced relatively quickly with the use of a filter. It's almost like, in entertainment, the marketplace actually prefers quality over quantity, especially in productions that stand the test of time. So to answer Corridor Digital's question, did they just change animation forever? If the long answer wasn't enough, the short answer is no. So, if you're an artist riddled with crippling anxiety over this whole situation, you can ease up and keep doing what you love, because I don't think you're going to be going away anytime soon.